Only the important folks left.
Thank you. Sticking around. First people.
Where?
I thought everybody would be gone looking at the schedule, but technology is a wonderful thing.
That's right.
The, you know, you've won 8 races. Why are you here today testing?
Do you need me to
Yeah,
do the
please.
microphone?
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Not that informal. I mean, Martinsville is an important race in the chase. It's a track that we've done really well at in the past, and we look at it as an opportunity to fine-tune our setups. But at the same time, we look at this race earlier this year, and we didn't do so well. We struggled a little bit here, as well as Goodyear has made a slight change to the tire. So we felt like it was important to come here and get laps on that tire, get some data, get some laps here, and try to make sure that we could give ourselves every opportunity to be a major threat to win here when we come back.
Brent?
Jeff, what is it about this race? I know last year it really seemed to be Matt and Jimmy coming into this race, but you picked up a win in the fall and put yourself in contention. What is it about this race in the fall, the springboard that it is going into those final 3 weeks?
Well, this year's going to be a little bit different, because of the different format, but it's only going to make it that much more exciting and intense, and it's going to make this race even more important than it's ever been before, because every race in the chase is so crucial. Every win is so important, and we've been talking about wins being so important this year, but never more than in the chase this year. And I think there's going to be a lot of surprises in the first 6 races as to who's out, as well as some surprises as to who stays in. And I think that's certainly exciting, to think about. And when it's happening, I think it's going to be really great for everybody, except for those that are out. I think that Martinsville is a short track where there's a lot of action. There's plenty of bumping and banging and tippers flaring up, and so I think it basically makes the chase in this race just that much more important and intensifies the competition on the track.
Brooks and Steve.
Jeff, you talk about the importance of a win when you come to Martinsville in the chase. It is the eliminator round. How detrimental could a poor finish here be going forward, headed towards Homestead?
Well, yeah, I mean, it could. I mean, you don't want to come in here, on any of those elimination races, having to have a win to move forward, right? You want to either have been strong enough in the points or have already had a win. But who knows how this format's going to play out, how it's going to work, and so you want to give yourself every opportunity to win at every race that's in the chase to guarantee yourself moving forward, and that's why we know that Martinsville is a great track for us. So do our teammates. I think all Hendrick Motorsports understands that we've had great success here, and we have confidence here, and that we can run really well here, and its importance in the chase.
Steve?
You were the last one to win at Southern 500 when it was the Southern 500 on Labor Day. Do you feel like it's back to its traditional date? Do you feel it's the true Southern 500 now?
Well, to me, the fact that we just still get to go to Darlington, that's what matters the most to me. As well as what the fans are going to enjoy, what works for them to come out and enjoy such an awesome racetrack with so much history. To me, it's always the Southern 500. It doesn't matter when. If I went to Darlington 4 times a year, I'd say it's the Southern 500. That's just the way I look at Darlington. But it's been so long for me. I can't keep track of the dates and when we raced there and which one was. I guess for me, the tradition was broken, and ever since it was broken on that Labor Day weekend, then I just kind of went with it, and just was excited that we still got to go to Darlington. So I guess for me, maybe I'm not old school enough with it, to say it was always Labor Day, and I have it embedded in my head as always Labor Day. And maybe it's just I don't have a very good memory, so I just go 1 week at a time.
Harrison and Stan.
Have you seen enough of the schedule to give an opinion on what it is?
A little bit. I mean, I was getting dressed in the truck and I saw Fox Sports 1 was on and they were talking about it. And looks interesting. I think I like moving Bristol later. I think Bristol's an important race, huge fan base, and you don't want weather to deter fans that want to go to Bristol. So I think that's a good one. Atlanta being the second race of the year, I think certainly a nice track. I like going to Atlanta any time of year as well, but as long as it doesn't snow like it did that 1 year, then I think that's a great choice to have second. I like the Western swing. I like how they have a bigger track, short track, bigger track, so that if the teams, and I haven't talked to the team about how they would possibly coordinate that, but it is possible for you to sort of make a Western hub, and bring some equipment from the shop where you don't have to go back and forth, which could be a big help, and do a short track car and an intermediate car. I like having one extra weekend off, but we didn't have that this year. But I did like that one in the middle of July, so that one's going to be a little bit of a change.
Just a question a little bit about testing in general. You're kind of the, no offense, but the old man in the shop these days at Hendrick, and with all the success you've had, how much of a day like today do you spend talking to the younger guys, especially Casey and Dale, who haven't won here, about...
Dale's about my age, so be careful. Sorry about that. Casey, I agree. He's young and he looks 10 years younger than he is. No, it's not about that. I mean, we're teammates, and I think that Jimmy's success here speaks for itself. So I mean, he and I have spoke as much today as I have with anybody else, and yet we know that he's probably going to be the toughest competition out there. And Casey came over at lunch, and I mean, we didn't talk a lot about it, but we talked a little bit about the tests and some of our lap times and things. Dale looks really strong out there. His car's good, but I haven't had a chance to talk to him. I talked to Steve. But no, it's just business as usual. Not looking at anything any different than we would any other test or any other Martinsville test.
And with
I think if there was a young guy who had no experience here, then that might be different. But that's not the case.
And as far as how tough the braking zone and the entry to the corner is, do you give any advice for those guys there, or do you ask for advice about the entry here?
Well, it's something you're working on all the time, so you're just always trying to maximize the car, getting it on the ground, getting the splitter on the ground. You want everything to be as low as possible for aerodynamic reasons as well as for handling reasons. And there is a pretty good bump going into turn 1 under braking there that can really upset the car. So we're battling with it too, and it's a compromise because you don't have that issue over turn 3. So if anyone was to come and talk to me about how I brake, if they ask me specifics, then I would let them know. I like when younger drivers kind of have the guts to come up to veterans and ask questions, and I think that because I know it takes a lot to get to that point, then I try to reward them for it, at the same time by being honest with them.
Stan.
Yeah, Jeff, all year long, every racetrack, you've been much better with this new car, with this Gen 6 car and everything. So how much better do you feel with this Gen 6 car here at Martinsville Speedway?
Yeah, I feel like the one place that we could go no matter what the car was and be competitive, it was here in Martinsville. And I've talked about this in the past about the least number of things. When you look at the sport in general, in engineering and aerodynamics and tires and track conditions, all those things of how much has changed over the years. The one that's changed the least is this track. And I think that's why, when we hit on something several years ago, me as a driver, us as a team, we've been able to not have to stray far from that. And it's sort of one of those things where just good old-fashioned basics work real well here. Now, with this car this year, with the lower ride heights, we've been able to exploit some things in the bigger spoiler, and the cars definitely have a little more grip, so you can drive harder in the corner. But the exit of the corners, all that doesn't do a lot for it. So you still got to do it mechanically, with the handling and the setup of the car. So, and with your right foot. So, I can't say things have changed a lot here. The speeds always are creeping up and getting a little bit faster, and this car is handling well around this racetrack, and so I like that.
Thank you.
Jeff, it doesn't feel, for being in here and listening to you guys go at it, doesn't feel like you're spending, even as a group, a lot of time on the track. Is there more time spent in the garage on working on the car setups and stuff than there used to be?
Yeah, as much as we need rubber on the track, and we're not going to get much rubber on the track with 2 cars, one car. I wish we had about 10 cars or 15. Heck, I wish we had 25 cars here to get true race conditions. That would be the ultimate. And even knowing that we were the only 4 that were going to be here, we still value the laps that we're going to get, and we take it with a grain of salt, because we know that conditions will change when we come back here and there's 43 cars on the track. So, right now we all have our tests, especially day one, we all have our own individual test plans, and then we're going through that list. And then what happens is we go home tonight and the engineers talk and come up with a kind of a game plan for tomorrow. And sometimes, conversations might go on tonight where we say, okay, we'd like to get more rubber on the track. We'd like to run all 4 cars out there together at one time to get the heat in the track and get the rubber laid down. I don't know if that's going to happen. I don't even know if we did that, if it would create the rubber on the track that we really want to get as true conditions as possible. So, for now, we're just gathering information and seeing what things, when we change them, how it reacts, or how the car reacts, and which ones pick up lap time, and hopefully those things will pay off when we come back.
Kenny, and then Ron and Dustin, and that'll be it.
Jeff, you had some family members meet the president this morning, I believe. How did that come about? What was behind that?
It's a very interesting story, and I don't like throwing this guy out there too much, but it's a situation where there was a young kid that I met. It was 94, I guess, 94 and 95. Sorry, I'm choking on something. At Charlotte Airport, and his family were big NASCAR fans. I think his uncle and maybe his parents. I don't know if it was his parents, but he came here, went through the shops, and I was going to the airport to fly somewhere, and he was standing in front of me, and I just met his uncle, and he told me, hey, there's a young boy over there that is a huge fan of yours. You could just say hi to him. So I said hi to him. Fast forward 20 years later, he works at the White House. And so, if they come to Charlotte, or if there's an event, that makes sense in DC, even in New York, and he's a great guy and fan of mine, but I'm just as big a fan of his and the work that he's doing. And so he was coming to Charlotte and asked me if we wanted to go do a tour in Air Force One. I said, I'm testing. So Ingrid and the kids and my mom and dad were able to go, and they didn't know they were going to meet the president. They just thought they were going to go do a tour in Air Force One, but had to work out where they got to say hello to him as well.
Cool.
Yeah. Ron and then Dustin.
Jeff, you guys share notes. You got 3 of you all, possibly 4, going into the chase. When you think about the race coming up here, the elimination race right here in Martinsville, at what point does sharing those notes become really irritating?
Yeah, I've been a part of those meetings and moments and days where, you know, especially if one of us is super fast in practice and our car is just awesome and you know, maybe our teammate who's our fiercest competitor out there for that particular race is having a rough day, you don't ever want to go to that meeting and just say, here's everything, you know, and vice versa. So the thing about the way we work though is it's in a database that we you know, it's just it's our philosophy. It's the way Rick wants it. We've been very successful because of it, and to get ourselves in this position of how much information we share and how we plug in. There's a person on each team that's dedicated to inputting that information into a database that every one of our teams can access. And then when we go into our meetings, you know, we go into detail about why we made the changes, what the car was, what I was saying, and they see every run and every change, but you know, you have to go look for it. So in our meetings, and we just kind of go run by run and go through the major changes that we made. So yeah, it can be frustrating, especially if you're that guy you're running really good, practice goes great, your car is awesome, you can't wait for the race, and then they put a bunch of your setup in, and then they go and win the race the next day. That gets frustrating, but that's our job. You know, our job is to gather information, make good choices, put the best car that we can out there on the track. And on those days when things aren't going well, it is very useful for us to be able to go to our teammates and see what they have, you know, and even our relationship with Stuart Haas, and be able to compare notes and take some pieces of what they're doing and hopefully make our car better. So it works both ways. It's much, I promise you, it's much nicer when things are going your way and they want information from you, more so than when you're begging for information from them because things aren't going well.
Dustin, close it out for us.
I had a couple questions. With the test you have scheduled, obviously you guys already tested at New Hampshire, you tested here, and I know Jimmy said you're going to test it at Phoenix. So that's obviously 3 of the 4 tests on flat type tracks. Is there, and I know that there's differences among these tracks, but is there a similar type of issue that you guys are having as a group, that the focus is there as opposed to some other types of tracks?
I think that it's, I mean, I wish the crew chief was in here to answer this. I think they're better, you know, suited to really know all the information that goes into those tests, because you got to understand it's not only an individual decision, it's a group decision. You know, we might not all agree that that's where we want to go, but as a group we have to make a decision. And I think Martinsville, you know, we just recognized that we had some struggles the last time we were here, and the tire wear was a big issue, and you know, we just felt like, so changing it, we need to get better, and we need to come test. And I think it was a similar thing in New Hampshire, if I'm not mistaken. I thought that they may have changed the tire there as well, but there's, as far as I know, there's no, you know, thought process of flat tracks. We need to be better on flat tracks. But I will say we've been awful strong on the bigger high-speed tracks. So, you know, I'm glad we're going to be able to test at Homestead. That's, you know, that's hopefully that one is one that pays off in a big way. But I think everybody is going to be testing there. So that's just the way we have it. The Phoenix test, I'm trying to think why we just. I honestly think that one of the reasons we decided to do Phoenix was, well, it hasn't been my best track in the last, you know, couple years since they repaved it. So Alan loves that track, and he's done well. I mean, we won on the old surface together, and we want to get back to that, you know, with the new service. The other thing is, it's been such a crucial race in the chase in the past. Now that's under the old format, but it could still be under this format, and so we want to be the best that we can be through all 10 races, and so we're as the season goes on, you start seeing where you're at in points, where you're at with your wins, and your teammates, all of you are talking in a room. You start giving your opinion, and what comes out of it are the results of where we go for these tests.
And you talk about the success on the bigger tracks. Obviously this year so far on the 1.5 miles, it's either been you, Jimmy, or the Penske guys that have won the races. So when you look at this weekend's race at Atlanta, I know the focus is doing as well as possible during that weekend and winning or whatever you can get out of it. But what else will you try to take away, or what will you try to focus on as much because it's the last 1.5 miles, or does it matter because it's a little bit different than all the others?
Yeah, although it's getting more and more like Homestead, the surface down Homestead is not as abrasive, but it's as slick. Okay. It's hard to get a hold of. So we might be able to take a little bit from Atlanta that we could apply to Homestead, but I think just whoever's you've got the best aero package in combination and set up together for the 1.5 miles, more than likely will run good at Atlanta this weekend. But it is unique and different. The wheel spin and how you manage the tires and slide the car around. Sometimes that can play a bigger factor in that 1.5 miles that you don't see play out in as many of the other 1.5 miles. The only, I think this, you didn't really throw in Harvick in there, and I would throw Harvick into that.
Well, yeah, I just mentioned just because he had,
I know he didn't win,
but you're right, you're right.
But I feel like he certainly could have, and so I think this weekend could be a good race for them. I feel really good about it. I'm looking forward to it, which I think all the cars and teams are. And I'm anxious to see, how the Penske cars are. They're certainly, they've been strong and they've been tough to beat. So I would assume that they will be strong there as well.
But you just said, because it's a little bit different, so if you're off or they're off or Harvick's off, does that really say that much then, or will people read too much into it?
I think I would read more into momentum and confidence than I would anything else. I think that who was good at Kansas the last time we were there, look at that. Yeah. And I think Chicago and Kansas are similar. I would, Dover, look at who was strong there the last time, Jimmy. I think that Charlotte, I'm hoping that we've improved since Charlotte and Dover. So that's where our focus is improving on some of the tracks that we didn't run as well at. But I would look back at whoever was good the first time through, and then who's just kind of hot right now.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, Jim.